I used to think the key to self-defense was simple: bigger handgun, bigger caliber, maximum stopping power. But one training night blew that entire belief apart. A few years back, I signed up for a high-intensity defensive shooting course, the kind built to mimic real-world chaos under stress: sirens blasting, strobes flashing, instructors screaming in your ear, and in my hands, a full-size pistol chambered in .45 automatic Colt pistol, the so-called one-and-done round. First trigger pull, missed clean. Second shot, straight over the berm. The recoil was just too much to control when my heart was pounding and my hands were slick. That's when the reality set in survival isn't about brute force. It's about what you can actually shoot straight when every second matters. In this breakdown, we're cutting through the myths. We're going to look at what truly makes defensive ammunition effective. Why some of the lighter, faster rounds, often called weak, are the exact loads chosen by elite federal units and military operators. And most importantly, how modern ammo design has flipped the old-school bigger is better mentality on its head. If you've ever wrestled with the 9mm versus the .45 debate, or if you simply want the truth about what's going to keep your family safe, stick with me. Because once I ran a box of fluted hollow points at the range, my entire perspective on stopping power changed. Let's start with the biggest myth in the gun world. Does caliber size really decide who walks away? I still remember my first trip to a Texas gun shop. Told the clerk I needed a reliable home defense sidearm. He didn't hesitate, pointed me straight to a shiny .45. "You hit with that, and they're done," he said. It sounded solid. It felt convincing. But that kind of advice is only half the story. And if you follow it blindly, it can steer you wrong for years. Once I started taking training seriously, I ran every type of defensive load through gel hollow points, bonded rounds, fluted projectiles, and the results hit me hard. Caliber size isn't what determines whether you survive the night. Sure, it's easy to believe bigger equals better, but massive rounds like the .44 Magnum or even the .45 automatic Colt pistol can be brutal to control, especially when you're panicked, tired, or facing real-world adrenaline. A retired cop buddy of mine once told me a story that drove the point home. He swore by the .45. Until one break-in call changed everything. He watched another officer fire 3 rounds at a suspect, only one hit. And even that one failed to shut him down. That was his wake-up call. Bottom line? The best bullet isn't necessarily the biggest. It's the one you can control when chaos explodes around you. That's why the FBI poured years into rethinking their duty ammunition standards. Because the question is no longer, how big is the round? The real question is, can it consistently reach the vital organs? Which brings us to the new baseline in defensive shooting, a 12-inch minimum penetration standard. And to understand why that number matters so much, we've got to revisit one gunfight that rewrote the rulebook. April 11th, 1986, Miami, Florida. The day the FBI learned a brutal lesson about handgun ammo. 8 agents tracking 2 violent bank robbers, Platt and Maddox. Within minutes, that surveillance turned into one of the deadliest gunfights in Bureau history. Less than 5 minutes long. Over 140 rounds exchanged. 2 agents dead. Several more badly wounded. And yet, the suspects, despite being shot multiple times, kept fighting. Here's the part that changed ammo testing forever. One agent landed a near-textbook hit with a 9mm. The round entered Platt's arm, passed through, and stopped just short of his heart. It should have been fight-ending. But the bullet didn't go deep enough. And because of that, Platt had enough left in him to keep firing, killing 2 agents before he finally went down. That single failure forced the FBI to face a hard truth. It's not about caliber size. It's not about noise or recoil. It's about whether the bullet can reach the vitals, even through barriers, clothing, or bone. From that day on, penetration became the standard. Every defensive round must travel between 12 and 18 inches in calibrated ballistic gel. That's the benchmark. That's the line in the sand. Because if a bullet can't reach the heart, all the muzzle blast and big bore bragging rights don't mean a thing. But penetration alone isn't enough. To truly stop a threat, the round must also expand and create damage where it matters. That's the real formula for stopping power. Penetration plus expansion. And next, we'll break down why those 12 to 18 inches became the gold standard and why some ammo still struggles to hit that mark. Now let's break down why that 12 to 18-inch penetration window is the gold standard for defensive ammunition. Ever wonder why 12 inches is the absolute minimum? That number didn't come out of thin air. It was forged out of thousands of real-world shootings, countless hours of gel testing, and too many tragedies where rounds stopped short. Picture this. An attacker closes in, wearing a heavy jacket, maybe holding a crowbar. You fire. That bullet first has to punch through layers of fabric, maybe an arm raised in defense, and still drive deep enough to reach the heart or spine. If it stalls at 10 inches, the fight isn't over. The threat is still coming. That's why experts set the standard. A proper defensive round must hit at least 12 inches, but never exceed 18, in ballistic gel that simulates human tissue. Too shallow, and the round may fail to stop the fight. Too deep, and now you're endangering anyone behind the target. I once saw a head-to-head test that drove the lesson home. Two nearly identical handguns. Two very different loads. The first, a bargain brand hollow point, barely made it to 10 inches after punching through denim. The second, a premium hollow point, drove a clean 15 inches with flawless expansion. Both hit center mass, but only one had the depth and performance to count on in a life-or-death moment, and that's the point. Just landing a hit isn't enough. Your ammo has to go the distance, and then do its work once it gets there. That 12 to 18-inch window isn't just a number in a lab report. It's the difference between hope and certainty. It's what separates a range toy from a true defensive solution. And when lives are at stake, that difference may be what saves you or someone you love. Section 4. Full metal jacket or hollow point, one choice can decide everything. It was a quiet Sunday when I stopped by a basic handgun class with a buddy of mine, a career firearms instructor. As we walked by, one student, probably mid-50s, held up his pistol and said proudly, "Picked up some high-end defense ammo, full metal jacket." My friend just shook his head. "That's range ammo," he muttered. "Not for your bedroom." Here's why. Full metal jacket rounds are built with a soft lead core sealed in a hard copper shell. They punch straight through with minimal deformation. Perfect for training, terrible for stopping a threat in a hallway or living room. Hollow points are engineered differently. They've got a cavity at the nose. On impact, that cavity peels outward like a flower, spreading the bullet's surface area, slowing it down, and dumping more energy inside the target. The result? More effective stopping power and less chance of overpenetration. Now imagine this. You fire to protect your life. That full metal jacket hits, but it doesn't stop. It exits the suspect and keeps moving. Through a wall, into another room, into someone you never intended to harm. Sounds dramatic? It's not. It's happened. In 2009, a Georgia shop owner fired a full metal jacket during a robbery. The bullet went through the suspect, tore through drywall, and struck a bystander. She lived, but with permanent injuries. Had that shot been a quality hollow point, odds are it would have stayed in the attacker. And that's the takeaway. You're accountable not only for where your bullet lands, but for everything it does after it leaves the muzzle. Full metal jacket isn't unsafe. It's just the wrong tool for the job. Hollow points are purpose-built for defensive shooting. They're designed to stop the fight fast, without unnecessary risk to others. But keep this in mind, not every hollow point is equal. Cheap loads sometimes fail to expand. Thick winter clothing can clog the cavity, turning it into nothing more than a round nose. That's why picking your carry ammo isn't just about hollow point versus full metal jacket. It's about choosing a load that's been pressure tested in real-world conditions. And that brings us to the round that completely flipped the script on handgun calibers. Section 5. The 9mm takeover. Why bigger isn't always better. When I first started shooting seriously, I believed what a lot of folks did. Real stopping power came from big, heavy rounds. So I went with a .45 automatic Colt pistol, because every old-school gun forum said that was the man's round. But after a few hundred rounds on the range, my wrists were sore, my follow-up shots slowed down, and my accuracy under pressure dropped. That's when I noticed something. The pros who actually carry guns for a living, law enforcement, military, even the FBI, all of them were shifting to 9mm. And the reason wasn't budget, it wasn't politics, it was performance. Modern 9mm hollow points deliver the same terminal effect or better than larger calibers. And they do it with less recoil and faster follow-up shots. Let's break it down. Less recoil means tighter shot groups when your adrenaline spikes. Higher capacity means more rounds in the magazine before a reload. Lower cost means more range time, more practice, more confidence. Modern loads like Federal HST and Speer Gold Dot consistently meet or exceed penetration and expansion standards. And the proof isn't just on paper. In 2014, the FBI completed a massive round of testing. After running every major caliber through modern gel protocols, 9mm came out on top. Not only for expansion, not only for penetration, but for real-world shootability. Officers who once clung to 40 Smith & Wesson admitted they were faster and more accurate with 9mm. And that's the bottom line. Defensive shooting isn't about flexing caliber size. It's about landing effective shots again and again under pressure. 9mm isn't a compromise. It's the modern standard, backed by data, proven on the street, and reinforced by the people who bet their lives on it daily. But the story doesn't end there. Because the next wave of ammo design doesn't just tweak tradition, it breaks it wide open. 8. Can you manage the recoil when it counts? I'll never forget the first time I fired a .357 Magnum. Up until then, I was running mostly 9mm. So I figured I was ready. The moment I pulled the trigger, the recoil ripped my grip loose. The muzzle flash lit up the lane like a flashbang. I stood there wide-eyed while my instructor asked one simple question. Could you have fired a second shot if that was real? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. That moment taught me something every defensive shooter eventually learns. The best ammunition isn't the most powerful. It's the load you can control under stress. Because in real life, your body betrays you. Your pulse slams. Your hands sweat. Your breathing goes ragged. And that perfect range stance? Gone. I had a student once, a single mom, who carried a .40 Smith & Wesson because someone told her it was serious firepower. On the flat range, she was fine. But when we ran a stress drill with strobe lights, loud distractions, and time pressure, she missed every shot. The recoil was too much. She panicked. A week later, she switched to a compact 9mm. Next drill, 3 solid hits in 3 seconds. That's the reality. If you can't keep your grip firm, if you can't realign the sights, and if you can't send a second round inside of 2 seconds, caliber doesn't matter. Choosing a manageable gun and cartridge doesn't make you weak. It makes you more dangerous because you'll put accurate fire on target when it matters. And once you've found that balance ammo you can trust, and a gun you can actually run, there's still one more piece to cover. What happens when your defensive shooting goes beyond the range and lands in a courtroom? 9. Courtroom consequences. The ammo that could haunt you. I sat through a self-defense law seminar not long ago. The instructor was a retired cop, turned defense attorney. Halfway through his talk, he stopped, looked around the room, and said, "Ballistics are fun to argue about, but your ammo choice might be what a prosecutor hangs you with." That hit me hard. Because even if your use of force is 100% justified, the cartridges in your magazine can be spun against you in court, especially if the prosecutor wants to paint you as reckless, or if a stray round injured someone else. Here's what raises red flags. Over-penetrating loads like Full Metal Jacket. They can pass through your target and hit a bystander. Gimmick ammo with names straight out of a video game, things like Zombie Slayer or RIP. That kind of branding makes you look bloodthirsty to a jury. Exotic or oddball designs that cops don't carry. Anything outside of duty-grade norms invites questions you don't want to answer. There's a case out of Arizona that proves the point. A man defended himself using fragmenting rounds sold as organ shredders. The shoot was ruled self-defense, but the trial dragged on for months because the prosecutor leaned on that ammo's marketing to question his mindset. Here's the bottom line. You're not only fighting to survive the encounter, you're also preparing to survive everything that follows. So stick with loads that have been vetted by law enforcement. Federal HST, Speer Gold Dot, Winchester Ranger T. Those names carry credibility, and their performance is proven in duty use. Couple quick tips. Know your state laws and how they tie into ammunition. Skip the tactical marketing hype. Document why you picked the load you carry. It may help your legal defense down the road. And remember, this ammo is only one piece. The factor that matters most doesn't come out of a box. It comes from training. 7. Shot placement wins, caliber comes second. I once heard a veteran put it plain. A 22 to the chest beats a 45 to the arm. At first I laughed. Then I started talking to cops, instructors, even trauma surgeons. Turns out, he wasn't joking. You can carry the most cutting-edge pistol, loaded with premium hollow points. But if you miss vital organs, it's just noise and flash. Shot placement is everything. That means putting rounds into zones that end the fight immediately. The central nervous system, the heart, the lungs, or the spine. Hit those, and even the toughest attacker shuts down. Miss them, and caliber doesn't save you. The FBI studied thousands of officer-involved shootings. Their conclusion? Between the common defensive calibers, 38 Special, 9mm, 40 Smith & Wesson, and 45 automatic Colt pistol, there was almost no statistical difference in immediate threat-stopping ability. The deciding factor wasn't caliber, it was placement. I once reviewed training footage of an officer who landed 3 hits, shoulder, arm, upper bicep. The suspect kept advancing. The 4th shot, right into center chest, stopped the fight instantly. That wasn't a caliber problem, it was placement. The lesson here is clear. Carry something you can control. Carry something you can shoot accurately when your adrenaline spikes, when your hands shake, when your vision tunnels down. That's one reason 9mm dominates defensive carry today. It's controllable. It allows faster, more accurate follow-up shots when stress is maxed out. But there's one more layer to this puzzle. Accuracy under pressure only matters if you can manage the recoil of your firearm in the moment that counts. 6. The next generation fluted bullets rewrite the rulebook. The first time I saw a fluted bullet, I had to stop and look twice. It didn't look like any self-defense round I had ever handled. No hollow cavity, no standard full metal jacket nose, just a solid copper slug, cut with deep spiral grooves that wrapped around the tip like turbine blades. My first thought? How in the world is this supposed to stop a threat? Turns out it absolutely is. Traditional hollow points depend on mechanical expansion. They open up on impact, which increases diameter and helps transfer energy. But that expansion can fail if the cavity clogs with heavy clothing or debris. Fluted projectiles play by different rules. They don't expand at all. Instead, those spiral channels grab soft tissue and redirect it outward at extreme velocity. The effect is violent fluid displacement wide, deep wound cavities created purely by fluid dynamics. That means 3 big advantages. First, no expansion required, nothing to clog, no failure point. Second, the bullet keeps its full shape even after striking barriers. It doesn't deform, so penetration stays consistent. Third, those channels can cause trauma that rivals or even surpasses conventional hollow points. One of the clearest examples comes from Lehigh Defense with their Extreme Defense line. Ballistic gel tests with 4 layers of denim showed penetration between 13 and 15 inches, flawless structural integrity, and devastating wound tracks. And here's the kicker. Even in smaller calibers that shooters often dismiss, like .32 automatic Colt pistol, these fluted rounds punched to ideal depth and caused major internal trauma. That changes the equation. It means lightweight, low-recoil carry guns, once considered last-ditch, can become serious defensive options if paired with the right ammo. Bottom line? Don't let internet folklore from 2005 decide your carry load. Trust the science. Trust the testing. Trust the data that proves what works. But remember, no matter how advanced the bullet design, it's worthless without accurate hits. That's where shot placement comes in. 10. Training. Beats gear. Always. I was at the range one weekend, watching a defensive pistol class. One shooter stood out. He was confident, mid-50s, carrying a slick 9mm loaded with premium defensive ammo. Before the drill, he told the group, This is the best ammo money can buy. But when it came time to fire, out of 3 rounds, only 1 found the target. The instructor didn't miss a beat. He just said, "Even the best ammo can't shoot itself." That line stuck with me. Because gear alone can create a dangerous illusion. The truth is simple training trumps equipment every single time. Pressure shooting isn't learned from a YouTube video. It comes from live reps, drawing from concealment, working reloads, clearing malfunctions, running drills under noise, movement, and adrenaline. Real violence moves faster than most folks realize. If you don't train, you will not keep up. I know a veteran cop who told me flat out, "My ammo did its job, but it was 10 years of weekly training that let me stop a robbery at 7 feet. Final takeaway. The round that wins the fight isn't the biggest, flashiest, or fastest. It's the one you can put exactly where it needs to go when your life is on the line. If this breakdown gave you something to think about, drop a comment below. Tell us what defensive ammo you carry and why. Hit that like button, subscribe for more, and stay tuned. Next up, we're diving into defensive drills, real-world scenarios, and how to keep your skills sharp when it matters most. Disclaimer: this video is for education only. It is not an endorsement of illegal firearm use, sales, or modifications.